My name is Ed Chi. I'm a research scientist at Google. I've been there for just a little bit over 2 years, 2.5 years or so. It was a long series of dances between me and Google that I finally ended up there joining just before Google Plus project was launched. My focus there is in social computing research. I lead a social research effort there. Well, Google is a very unique organization. As a company, it's very idealistic. It's a company that my personal experience of it is that it's a little bit like it has a technology utopian view of the world. So it's the company itself is operated in a very transparent way. So as an example, every Thursday there's a big company meeting that anyone can attend, and anyone can ask the CEO any question they wanted. And so it's a very unique culture. It's unlike any other big companies that I've ever been in. As a place to do research work, it's also very unique because you're embedded in the context of a very large engineering organization. Google chiefly is an engineering organization, engineering company. But then at the same time, it's also a very fast-paced company in the industry. Google Glass is a prototype system that we have been working on at Google. One of the reasons I'm on this trip is because afterwards I'm going to Zurich to participate in the Wearable Computing Conference. And this has been a giant experiment for Google, and I'm helping them to test it out and understand it and give them a little bit of connection to the social uses of Google Glass. And so it's been a kind of a interesting technology for lots of people. So I'm also similarly waiting to see how it will develop over the next couple of years.
How do you like it so far?
Well, what I've found that is very good for is all the things that you want to do hands-free. So a lot of times, like for example, this is something I think a lot of the Austrian people can relate to. If you're on the ski slope and you want to take a picture going down the slopes, a lot of people are now using helmet cams, right? So Google Glass can accomplish some of the same things. You can record a video of yourself going down the slopes, and it's exactly what you see is what's recorded, right? So a lot of these kinds of like capturing your everyday moments is one very good application of Google Glass. But it's also very good for answering on-the-fly questions that you have by using Google to, find out how many ounces in a pint or, that sort of things. Wearable technology like this, there's much more questions about how it will become part of people's lives. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the social norms are going to be developing around wearable technology. I wonder if the same thing happened when the watch was first invented. People say, there's clocks on the wall. Why would we need to wear a watch? But we'll find interesting uses for them eventually, I think. Before I went to Google, a lot of the struggles were always about whether we can get enough computing resources to do the kind of big data research that we wanted to do. At Google, basically, that comes for free. So that wish, it's kind of strange because before I was in an organization where I had that wish, and then when I went to Google, that became true, right? So I guess you have to be careful what you wish for because you might actually end up with that. So in terms of being at Google, I think the major challenge at Google is that because it comes from a much more engineering-based mindset. So my personal opinion is that we don't understand how to build user interfaces and how to build user experiences as well as we probably should. And so my biggest wish is that there's a better understanding of how to really refine the user experience and really truly make our services magical for our users. I think we are falling a little short of that, and I think my hope is that my job is to try and change some of that. Well, one of the things that I think that's been a very positive development in computer science, and particularly in the study of social systems in the last sort of 7 or 8 years, is that there's been this rise of big data and analytics. So there's a lot of these analyses using sort of log analysis and database data mining, machine learning techniques to really look at and predict and create descriptive models of human behavior, of user behavior, particularly their social behavior on the web. But the problem with these models have always been that they are not very explanatory. They don't actually explain to us why is it that people behave the way they do. And so a lot of what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow is really focused around how can we actually build models so that we actually have a scientific understanding of why people behave the way they do on social web systems. So it's kind of got a little bit of a combination of scientific component to it, which academics really like, but then on the other, these models are designed to help you understand so that you can actually use it to engineer new systems. You can engineer new social systems. Well, obviously, big data it's been a big movement in the last couple of years, and I expect that to continue for some time. As far as that goes, and since I'm going to be talking a little bit about it tomorrow, I would say that the one thing that will obviously start to happen is that people will realize that big data analytical techniques is simply a hammer, and so you have to understand what you're building in order to use the hammer. So I think a big trend in the next couple of years will be better understanding of how to use the hammer, how to use these tools. But beyond that, I think that we're still at the beginning of the mobile revolution. So, within the space of 7 years or something like that, we have moved from a phone that barely gets on the web to a phone that is to a smartphone where 50% of the web traffic now goes through the mobile phone. And then just as recent as 3 or 4 years ago, we didn't have tablets, and now tablets is everywhere. And so we're literally right in the middle of that revolution still. So it's quite clear that mobile computing will continue to evolve, including wearable computing technology, obviously. So when cell phone first came out, people didn't know how to use them. Should I answer my calls in the middle of a restaurant? If it rings in the middle of a lecture, what do I do? That sort of things. These problems we still have, right? And so all these issues need to be ironed out. And so mobile computing will continue to be a evolving thing, and that's quite obvious. I think that's pretty safe to bet on. Beyond those two things, I would guess that cloud computing is going to be inevitable, and the reason for that is really simple: is that all of us are generating so much data at this point. It's just unreasonable for all of us to spend so much time managing it. So to some extent, there needs to be personal outsourcing of this task to cloud computing technology. So that's going to happen, and I think we're at the beginning of that for personal computing. And the enterprise is already moving on to cloud computing for personal services. I think there's going to be more and more of it. A big problem there is network bandwidth and latency and things like that. But that will happen, and I think that's going to be a big focus of the industry for the next probably 5 to 10 years. What makes me happy is any activity that really makes me really focused and like I don't think about anything else. So I get that experience when I'm skiing, for example. So when I go snowboarding in the mountains, you have to pay attention what's in front of you, or otherwise you fall, right? So that kind of focus is something that I really enjoy in my activities. So I feel like working in computer science, when you're building systems or programming and things like that, you really get the same kind of intensity and focus. That's what I always look for in my life, and that really cooking is another hobby of mine, and cooking is another good example. Like you don't pay attention and something gets burnt or something like that. So everything that I do, I try to, even though I'm known as a multitasker, but actually I enjoy those activities where I can really focus the most. The programming and the engineering work often has that kind of focus. And so what I've been trying to do in my schedules is that I actually use what's called a worker schedule. So all my meetings are either at 11, 12, or 1 o'clock, or at the end of the day, so 4, 5, or 6 o'clock. So that means that I get the morning and also right after lunch from somewhere between 2 to 5 o'clock, 2 to 4 o'clock. That I actually get uninterrupted time to actually work technically. And one of the things I learned from doing some management of projects is that it's very easy over some period of time for you to lose your edge. Like you forget how to really program, how to really work with systems. And as you advance in management, that is the one skill that a lot of times people start to lose. And so it's very important for me that I work with my engineers on a fairly daily basis and actually understand what their code is doing. So I review their code and I write some of the code myself. And that's really kind of what I ultimately like to do, actually. So.